5, 16, 19, 21, 33 and 10. Check results. You remember?
A podcast a day, number 73, I think. 73 days in a row. We've been doing this since, I believe, maybe the 23rd of December, somewhere around then. I usually get sort of inspired to start doing shit around that kind of time of year. Just get ahead of the curve of January, you know what I mean? Get in there slightly early. Not a great time to start shit though, you know, Christmas and that, you kind of want to be doing fuck all. But here we are. Not got my mic today. Well, I do have my mic, but I just can't use it today. So we are going micless, which is a shame because I sound like shit, but it's fine. It's only one, and I have to accept these things if I want to keep my daily streak going. It's kind of like, you know, you could maintain a certain level of quality, but you're going to miss a day, and once you miss a day, it's like, that's a slippery slope, man. And also, I feel like with this podcast, it's more kind of like what you get as a whole. It's kind of more about like the waveform of like all the episodes and what they equal to. Like, there's obviously way better podcasts that will be like an hour, 2 hours long. They'll come out every week. They'll be well formatted. There'll be a lot better structure to them, and they'll talk about, you know, things they've actually figured out and not just rambling from top of the head like I am right now. But I feel like whether we have good episodes here on some days or bad episodes on other days, it's the this, baby. It's the highs and lows of it all. It's just the interestingness alone of a podcast doing a video log basically every single day. And usually people do this when they're like trapped in like a bunker and like there's dinosaurs and everyone on the planet's dead, and they're like hoping someone finds this one day and will save them. But I'm just doing it in sort of normal life for no reason. But I just think, I don't know, I just like to do it. I feel like it keeps me motivated. I need to remind myself of this like every 10 episodes, but I just feel like it keeps me in a good creative space by always making something at least. Whether, even if this doesn't really feel like you're making something, you're sitting down and talking for 20 minutes, but it just kind of keeps you in that mode, because I feel like when you got a particular, when you're like more, you feel you lean more like creative brain heavy, then like sometimes you're like, productive for like a 2-week span, and you're like non-stop and you're like staying up to like 4 a.m. and you just like get these weird brain blasts. And then sometimes you're lazy as shit, and I won't lie, I've been like that, where you just don't do anything for like a month, and it's like you can't waste a month of time. Like, that's too much time, and like you just gotta always be putting stuff out. So like now I do this, and alongside this, you know, we do the F1 stuff, we do the football stuff, and we do the movie stuff, and just always got something on the go. And today we're merging worlds. Because I'm talking kind of movie stuff, but of the YouTube space, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that happened. Well, there's kind of things that have happened recently that I haven't mentioned. I mean, Arsenal won today in the 97th minute. That's really pissed me off. Chelsea finally won. You know, Formula One is back. Ivan Toney, you know, pleaded guilty to like 5,000 betting charges and stuff. And I was going to talk about some of that shit. But I was like, I remember recently in a podcast, I spoke about True Geordie, Brian Jordanson, not actual name, the YouTuber who kind of like had like this massive drop off, this massive fall from grace or fall from wherever he was at, because he made a bad joke and got cancelled, right? Cancel culture. And then I've also spoken about, I said talking and spoken about, I'm kind of merging together that back. But I've also kind of spoken about like how I've recently been listening to Theo Von. Like, I've been getting into that, his podcast. I've been listening to it a lot recently, I won't lie to you. I've mentioned it quite a lot. So if you've been listening to these like day by day, you probably would have guessed. But he did a podcast as well with someone, I can't remember his name. Oh, it's going to annoy me. I can't remember his name, but he got cancelled. He was like on SNL, and then, well, he got the gig on SNL, and like within the same day lost the gig because he got cancelled for like prior jokes and stuff. And it just got me thinking again, back to like the True Geordie thing. And it's just like, it's such a shame, man, because I've been like, sometimes I like do episodes where I just kind of spend the whole episodes praising something I like or liked. I remember I did one for Hive Mind recently, which is a YouTube channel I watch, and they offer me something different in a sense. But like, I remember like a video I made ages ago, which no longer sees the light of day, thank God. It was, I mean, this is filmed like shit, but that was filmed like intense shit. I was on a balcony somewhere. It was like overcast day. I filmed it on what looked to be a potato. And it was shit. But it was about 4.5 minutes long. And it was titled, "Why the Kickoff is Better Than Porn." That's what I titled it. Yeah. Couple things to mention. If you don't know what the kickoff is, it's a show. It is a YouTube live stream football show where they watch the game, react, talk about it, have general conversation like a podcast kind of while the game's going on. You react when moments happen. That True Geordie used to do. And it just got me thinking of those times, those days, the amount of hours I put into watching that content, and like it's just such a shame. Like I was into it so much. Watched that from like the conception of it, and then how it evolved into like different sets, into like it got bigger and grander and grander, and I feel like it got more and more polished, and then kind of just evaporated into nothingness. And they still do it, but it just feels entirely not the same. And I've recently already spoken about the whole like True Geordie stuff and that side of it, and like how the other people who are on the show went off to do their own things now, and it just kind of seems better for everyone. And whether it's fair or not to leave people just completely in the mud as soon as things go wrong, that's one conversation. There's also the conversation that can be had that if you do something wrong, to then ask people to like come out in public and back you is also difficult, because it's like, well, I have not done anything and I don't need to do this kind of thing. But behind the closed, anyway, we're not going to go into that side of it. But it's just more that like, I just feel like it's a shame, right? You can be on a trajectory where you're only going up, and you're already creating stuff that's like really good, but like you're on a path to create stuff that like is the best in the space, and just keep building on that. And then now it's just like completely derailed, and everyone's like still doing positive things and their own things, but it's not the same. And I feel like so much of the True Geordie channel, what made it like really good, was the fact of who was on the channel. Like it was a True Geordie's channel. The channel was called True Geordie. Therefore, the channel belongs to the truest Geordie, Brian, whatever his last name is, right? But it felt like at most it was a channel that kind of belonged to at least 4, 5, 6 people, but at least belongs to True Geordie and Laurence McKenna. Like to me, it always felt like their channel. Like the podcast was those two, the shows they did midweek were those two, and then on the kickoff, it felt like those two were the hosts. Those were the ones there for every single one, and then sometimes guests change from season to season, from week to week, and the live streams, you know, those two. And it started with those two, and it's looking like it's not going to end really with those two, and it kind of feels different, you know. It's kind of like whatever double act, you know, and then you lose one, and they might not see it that way because it is True Geordie at the end of the day, but it kind of feels that way. And even like on the live stream side of things, you'd have like Laurence McKenna doing live streams on his own sometimes, Champions League, running stuff on his own, so he kind of had his own part in it. And like he's off doing his own thing now. Like he wanted to be a director, and I feel like he is a director. Obviously, he's directed like great stuff on YouTube, stuff that's inspired me a lot. And on his own channel, and then he made his football channel, and like the things like the football holiday, his fast-paced editing style. A lot of the videos he made on like EXO, rest in peace, short-lived little channel there. But I mean, they did have a couple bangers. Like the video he made in New York is like a part of the reason why like I had this like desire to just want to go to New York so much. Like the way he shot it just was like, yeah, this is everything I thought New York would be, and you're kind of depicting it in a way that I imagined it. And I just feel like now, yeah, so he's a director, and he feels like he's going off to like do more mainstream director things that make you like an actual director, like working more in a mainstream sense with like football teams or bigger companies as a whole. But I just feel like that it's a shame. I remember he was making a YouTube video once, and I really want to like interview him one day. I've not really got much of a platform to do it now, but like one day I do. And like I've only interviewed like 5 people on the podcast. Like the other one I know I'm a bit it's a bit odd. It's odd enough that everybody nowadays has a podcast, and I have 3 very like on the floor level podcasts that just trying to. One of them, Formula 1 podcast, which I've just restarted now for the new season. This, where we just do a daily, like, whatever's on my mind. And then the interview-based one, which is kind of whenever I can manage to interview someone, which looks to be almost never, because I've done 5 in about 2.5 years. But I remember Laurence has always been someone who's, like, always been in my top 5, top 10 on the list, because he's just always been someone whose work inspires me. Comedy. I'm not like a comedian, so I can't say his comedy inspires me, but someone I find very funny in that space. And I always want to interview him, and I feel like he made a video once where he was talking, and it was kind of after he got in hot water for the whole live stream. If you don't know, he was on a live stream. They made fun of a charity match. You know, they were just making jokes, but it got taken out of context. It got taken in context, you could argue. Maybe they were just bad jokes, right? But you got in trouble for that. He came out and made a video. He recently watched the Sidemen charity match and thought, you know, this is a space I actually am proud of and want to be a part of. And I feel like I can do things to make the next one even better, and I want to be a part of that. And like, when I saw him in that moment, like, very vulnerable. And I feel like sometimes when you, although I said they're a really good duo and they're great together, when you see them apart, sometimes you just get what's on their minds more. Similarly with True Geordie, he did a live stream where he was on his own recently. And I just found it so interesting. He was sitting there just talking alone. And I feel like when you haven't got someone to like... No, I like a two-person podcast, bouncing ideas off each other. But when you occasionally have someone talking on their own and haven't got someone to like reply back to thoughts you put out into the world, it's like you'll say a thought out into the world and you'll sit there in your own silence. And then you're forced to think about what you said, how you feel, you express those emotions like clearly, and there's less to deflect away with, there's less to feel embarrassed about something you just said because it felt too deep, and then you make a joke and then you move on, and then this and that, and they bring someone up and they cut you off and you cut them off, and then the conversation tangents and you get away from it all. So you see that from them in both sides, but I saw this video and he was talking about it, and I just thought like it just felt like he had a lot to... He's not dead, let's just say that. But it felt like he had a lot to offer this particular space. I feel like he now can go off and make documentaries, very mainstream, or maybe, I'm not necessarily like saying he's like sold out, but like making stuff with Liverpool. And he was doing that anyway, but with Liverpool, with like the NBL, with whoever he goes on to work with now, right? Maybe he goes on to make documentaries for like television stuff. But I just feel like it's a shame because you had someone who promised a lot of good things, and you kind of wanted to see that in a YouTube space. And now to move away from the space, it feels like, okay, these ideas are going to get lost in this big cooking pot of just beigeness. When it's like you had something to offer in like a YouTube scene that has much higher potential to me, and not just YouTube, but just like the whole space as a whole. So I'd say it's a shame for that. It's a shame in terms of the channel. I just feel like even little things, the Carabao Cup final, you know, stuff like that is stuff where you want to see them together, because it's just like, and they lost it, so it didn't really matter at the end of the day. But if they won it, you'd kind of want to see that moment together, because it would have meant a lot for True Geordie to see his Newcastle team win something when he probably previously thought he would die before that happens. So like, it feels like you're missing out a lot in that sense. But I don't know. I don't want this to like, this isn't like a parasocial thing. I don't feel like I know these people. All I'm saying is I feel like, you know, if you want to relate it to a football sense, there's this great partnership going on here, and they could have went on to break the Premier League goal scoring record and score all these goals. But then whatever happened, manager comes in, someone fell out, he moved to PSG, and it's just kind of, things are different now. And he's still doing well, but it's like, it could have been so good. And especially just because I would put Laurence McKenna up there, and he's so different to a lot of the other people I watch. But because he's such a like creative in like the rawest sense of like direction and like behind the scenes and in front of camera, and just the unique flavour he would add into stuff, especially when you watch these vlogs. Like, I've seen people go to football matches and travel around a bunch of times. To do it in your own way, I think is impressive or commendable or whatever. And I just feel like sometimes when I feel or I have these positive things to say about people, might as well just put it out into the world. If he ever sees this, you know, because I feel like as well, probably received a fair amount of, not necessarily hate, like people just come for you non-stop, but just feels like he's not, you know, loved or even liked, which sometimes you want more to be liked even by like a community of people YouTubers, fellow people who also make YouTube videos that are on his level, and then just people like, you know, me talking right now who just watch the stuff, feel like just don't really rate him anymore, just never rated him, or just sort of would be happier if he just kick on and do something else. But yeah, that was me talking non-stop for about 16 minutes about a like 30-plus-year-old man. But hey, this was episode 73 of Podcast a Day. We do a podcast every single day. Keeps the doctor away. Yeah, okay. And I'll see you guys in number 74.
Here with the kids, and I've got 3 kids, and the geezer was probably on like maximum 20 bags a year. Like the most boring bloke you'll ever meet. He was like,